In this video, we are going to cover the behavioral questions of the BA interviews. It's a series, so it's part 2 of the video series I'm going to produce. In the last video, which is part of this series, we covered Tell Me About Yourself, where we highlighted the importance of this question and how to prepare your script to impress the interviewer. The link of that video has been provided below in the description section. Now coming to the interview, we will cover behavioral questions, and when we talk about BA interviews, the interviews sometimes cover technical, general, behavioral all in one go, or sometimes they are separate rounds. So to prepare for that, you should always have your elevator pitch ready and a few stories polished, and it will require a lot of practice, and you have to say it loud at the time of the interview. Behavioral interviews, in short, it's a way to let your past work experience, performance, prove that what you are capable of doing in the future for this particularly potential employer for which you are interviewing. The objective of this video is to review the most common BA behavioral interview questions employers usually ask and get tips on how to prepare and respond smoothly, where you are asked to give examples of how you handle workplace situations. Just remember, there is no right or wrong answer for the behavioral questions. These questions are meant for understanding your behavior, as I mentioned, how you handle the workplace situations. Okay, now trying to understand so this is generally asked at the end of the interview, but I'm covering in my first slide. Why should I hire you? So you should never respond with a generic answer like I am smart, qualified, and I want this job. Of course, you do, and you wouldn't be sitting in this interview for that particular aspect. And it's almost certain that every other candidate is going to be saying nearly the same thing. So your answer should be unique and separate you from the talent pool. Otherwise, there's a risk of falling into the same category as everyone else, which is what you are trying to avoid in the interview. While you don't want to sound like overconfident show off, it's a time to brag about your skills and experiences humbly. It's great to list some bullet points that you will want to emphasize in advance and prepare a few responses to this question. So I would again say, don't memorize a script, don't mug up your script, but a list is required. So for example, what you see on my screen, talk about your experience, qualifications if you are an experienced BA. Mention about your functional domain and technical skills. Highlight on your communication and teamwork, how you delivered results earlier, how you can handle customer stakeholders effectively. Talk about your innovative and entrepreneurial spirit, and team handling, motivation skills if required as per the JD. So I will also provide a generic answer. So if we say I have more than 10 years of experience in core business analysis, and I was among the very few fortunate people to have associated with this particular discipline right from the beginning. I have a global reach and have worked across different verticals. I understand the role very well and possess excellent communication and stakeholder management skills. If you talk about performance, I have been a top performer in my current organization, whatever you want to talk about, and I should be hired for my confidence, adaptability, and experience. Okay. Now coming to strengths and weaknesses, I just love this question. During the interview process, it's likely that the hiring manager will ask you describe your strengths at some point. Many candidates probably wonder how to answer what are your strengths without bragging too much or risk appearing narcissistic. So you want to craft your answer with a high degree of self-awareness and professionalism, I would say. It's very important to be prepared for this question and have a statement ready. So this is being asked in almost every interview you go for. Even if you aren't asked this particular query, you will be you should be aware of your strengths and what you can bring to this particular position. It can be asked in many other ways too. So you can craft a compelling way to deliver your story while highlighting what you can bring to this particular position, what you are applying for. So strengths, for example, what you see on the slide: skills acquired from education, experience like IT skills, degree, certificates, you can mention that. Communication and people skills, analytical problem solving and planning skills, so that's something which comes with experience, and you can mention, you can provide some instances. And some personal traits, so I have just penned down some personal traits. It's not that you have to cover each and everything, it's more of an example what you can cover at the time of your interview. For example, flexibility, enthusiasm, trustworthiness, creativity, discipline, patience, respectfulness, determination, dedication, honesty, versatility, you are someone who can take initiative, self-control, blah blah blah. Okay, now coming to weaknesses. So when addressing your weaknesses, draw upon examples relating to either skills or habits or some personality traits. You may want to choose which is to focus on depending on the type of job you are interviewing for. So read the job description properly for the clues on what matters the most, and you should frame your answer accordingly, I would say. But whenever you are trying to answer this particular aspect around weaknesses, put a positive spin to your answer. When asked to present a weakness, find a way to emphasize the upside. For instance, you might say you are working to improve your particular weakness, or explain how a weakness might be considered a strength. You can take examples from your past experience. Just take a note, you shouldn't be too detail oriented, because interviewer wants to understand what was your weakness, not the project details, okay, or how you handle that particular weakness, how to produce quality work with that particular weakness. So that's something you have to understand. So wanting to some examples I have provided. So I would never provide procrastination, it's just an example. If depends on you how you perform your role. Wanting to control too many aspects of the situation, that's something I do, and I generally say it up front. Procrastination, inability to self-regulate, leading to burnout. So that can happen when you are working as a BA right in the beginning, when you don't have much experience how to handle the responsibilities. Disorganized, so this is something which I won't say, it's more of an example to just to align you how to think for this particular weaknesses query. Okay, so but in the end I would always say be honest and sincere in your response. Don't pretend to be a perfect or claim to have skills you don't possess. Okay, now coming to communication, which is very important part. It's a very generic aspect. So communication skills are key to any interaction, any interview you go for, and communication skills have a lot of weightage. So as mentioned on the slide, your statements should be very crisp and very clear. For any skill experience you should highlight, you have experience, whether you have experience or not, but you have to provide a precise answer. Okay, don't pretend you know some particular thing, you may not be able to defend it. So I would say be precise in your answer, say yes or no, and provide reasoning behind it. And the interview can be anything, it can be of any kind, face to face, telephonic, Skype, video calls, anything, Zoom calls. So try to be very slow and steady in your communication, it should be very clear. Okay, and last, show a lot of confidence. That's something which is the most important part for any interview. The interviewer wants this confidence that every analyst should be able to talk to the stakeholder customers to do his or her job effectively. So that's the most important part. Now let's see what. Okay. So one other aspect which will come at the time of behavioral interviews. What are your career goals, or where do you see yourself after 5 years? So at the time of making this video, I don't know whether this question is applicable in job interviews, as we don't know how long will this corona crisis will take, I would say. So let's be positive and try to answer this one. So when the interviewers bombard you with this question, their basic aim is to test your commitment to the job role. Okay, so do not stutter or try to express your thoughts confidently. Just try to express your thoughts confidently. What they are trying to understand is, do you have realistic expectations for your career? Are you ambitious or not? And does this particular position align with your growth or goals overall? Okay, so your interest in long-term career, you should always mention that. Remember that the organization is going to be investing a considerable amount of time, energy and money in hiring and training you for this job. So you must at least show an honest intention to stay long enough to be a good investment. Okay. When I say broad answer, so no one can predict future, right? So make your answer truthful but broad enough so that it doesn't raise any doubt about whether you would be a good fit for this position at this organization. And apart from that, always you cannot provide a precise answer. Where do you see yourself after 5 years? You are not Sheldon, I would say, from the Big Bang Theory. Okay, now the last one, exhibit enthusiasm. So that's something which you have to show, not for this particular query, but during the whole interview. So make it very clear that you are motivated to take this opportunity right now. Always show that. Always exhibit that particular behavior. Okay, so if I am asked this particular query, so generally my answer is, in few years time frame, I see myself getting into business architecture discipline, contributing to the business strategy and plans. This includes design of architectural solutions, developing business transformation plans jointly with the senior management, handling business solution delivery, developing and maintaining governance and control over implementation. Generally, I would like to have solid understanding of the business principles and concepts, understand how business functions are implemented by technology, strategy thinking of understanding business intention and business action, understanding of change from business operational and organizational perspective. So that's something where it's more of an example for you. You can align your answer around that, or you can take your own as per your understanding. Just prepare a script for this particular aspect. It will be for any in 90% of interviews, in fact 95% of interviews, you will be asked this particular question. Okay, so whenever your interview gets over, so generally the interviewer asks you, do you have any questions for me? Okay, so if you are a junior BA, if you are too naive, I would say, you can say no, you don't have any questions, but that's not the right approach. So it's all too easy to become so focused on having the right answers in an interview that you totally forget you might also need to ask some questions, right? Yet in most cases, the last thing that the hiring manager or the interviewer will typically do is to ask if you have any questions for him or her. Okay, so here's the important thing to remember. It is in your best interest to have at least one thoughtful question to ask. Not only does it show your level of engagement in the company and the hiring process, but it will also extend the conversation and give them something else they can remember you by, I would say. So depending on who you are interviewing, your questions should vary. So if you are interviewing with the hiring manager, ask questions about the job, the desired qualities and the challenges. If you are interviewing with the human resources manager, HR people, ask about the company and the department. If you are interviewing with the management, ask them about the industry and future projections. This is your chance to demonstrate your industry knowledge, your domain knowledge, I would say, if you are aware of that particular domain. Okay, use I would say you will have to use your judgment about the number of questions you ask and when to ask them, but one or two questions are usually okay or good to go. Okay, so there would be many when we talk about behavioral questions, there would be many other questions which we are not covering in this video, but they are they're not very difficult to answer. So for example, challenges pertaining to your manager, how will you handle a difficult manager? Challenges pertaining to you handling stakeholder conflicts. What are the main challenges working as an analyst, BA, business analyst, or sometimes if you are working across different geography. So if different teams are working across different geographies, what issues you face and how you handle those. So that's something which you can prepare from your past experience or the projects what you did. Okay, so keep watching this space for more interview question series. This will continue. We will cover more questions for the BA role, for the BA interviews. Thank you for watching this video, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you, and please leave a feedback comment. Thank you.